Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of The Magnate. And as usual, you know, on The Magnate, we bring to you eminent and interesting business personalities and people who have years of experience in various industries. Previously, we talked to you on the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian economic sector, especially as it affects young entrepreneurs and people who are aspiring to go into various businesses. On today's episode, we're going into Nigeria's health sector and with special focus on pharmacy, pharmacology, and drug use, drug abuse, and a whole lot of other health-related disciplines. And to give his expert opinion and expert view on the topic, we have a professor of pharmacology here in the studio who will be enlightening us on the various topics. So who is our magnate for this week? Let's find out.
Professor Ibrahim Oreagba is a consultant pharmacist and a clinical pharmacologist with a master's and doctorate degree in pharmacology. He also has a postgraduate certificate in pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in London, UK. He is a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. He is also a seasoned resource person and examiner of the college. He is currently a professor and head of Department of Pharmacology, Therapeutics and Toxicology, College of Medicine, University of Lagos, Idiaraba, and immediate past editor-in-chief of West African Journal of Pharmacy, one-time editor-in-chief of the Nigerian Journal of Pharmacy, currently an editor in the West African Journal of Pharmacology and Drug Research, and an editorial consultant for the Nigerian Quarterly Journal of Hospital Medicine, Journal of Basic Medical Sciences, and the Journal of Basic and Social Pharmacy Research. He is also a reviewer to many local and international journals. He is the core technical member, consultant to the National Drug Safety Advisory Committee, NAFDAC, expert committee on the development of the National Pharmacovigilance Policy. He has published over 70 original scientific papers in the field of pharmacology, pharmacy practice, therapeutics, rational drug use, drug abuse, pharmacovigilance, pharmacoepidemiology, chemotherapy, and toxicology in local and international journals. He is currently the executive director of a welfare-oriented NGO named Human Concern Foundation International, and the chairman of a quality assurance organization known as Halal Certification Authority. He is also the current vice president of the Islamic Medical Association and the general secretary of the Muslim Pharmacists Association of Nigeria. He is happily married with 4 children.
Wow, that was such a beautiful and interesting citation. So joining us now in the studio is Professor Ibrahim Oreagba, the head of Department of Pharmacology, Therapeutic and Toxicology, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Thank you very much for obliging our call, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So during the course of the citation, we're hearing pharmacy, pharmacology, pharmacy, pharmacology. Is there, are they the same, so do they mean different things?
Okay, pharmacy is a professional discipline that deals with the dispensing, production, sales of medicines, while pharmacology is the scientific study of drugs. Okay? Now, pharmacology is an aspect of pharmacy. Okay. So for you to be a pharmacist, you must be well grounded in pharmacology as a subject. But those people that decide to pursue the course in pharmacology, they usually are more of researchers. They work in the academics, or they work in research institutes or regulatory authorities like NAFDAC. So the pharmacologist deals with the person that actually do a lot of research in bringing up new drugs, conducts clinical trials, and also preclinical trials to ensure that we get more drugs or translates or transforms the herbs that we see all around into medicines, drugs for people to use. Whereas the pharmacist more or less deals with the ready-made product. Of course, we have some other groups of pharmacists. We have the industrial pharmacists. They are the ones actually involved with the production of drugs in the companies. We have the hospital pharmacist, who actually is in the hospital to clerk patients, to counsel patients, and dispense drugs to them, telling them the various adverse reactions that may occur while they take the drug, and it continues to monitor the patients, after they're taking the drugs. Then you have the community pharmacist. That is your neighborhood pharmacist who operates a community pharmacy and dispensing the drugs and also counsels patients on the correct use of drugs.
Okay, so in the area of pharmacology and pharmacy in general, and when we come to Nigeria, how far would you say Nigeria have gone in terms of drug production, drug pharmacy and pharmacology compared to other countries?
Well, in Nigeria, being a developing country, we have a lot of importation coming up, whereby we depend a lot on finished products. However, we also have our own indigenous pharmaceutical companies manufacturing drugs. We have companies that manufacture OTCs. We call them OTCs, that is over-the-counter drugs, which are drugs that can be prescribed without, that can be taken without a doctor's prescription. Then we also have some companies that manufacture even prescription drugs, but they are limited. So we have not yet there, but at the same time, we are doing a lot in terms of getting access to essential drugs for our people.
So what's the major reason or the major disadvantage or the major issue right now that Nigeria is backward in terms of drug production?
Well, basically the raw materials, you know, when you are producing drugs, you need to have the raw materials, you need to have the personnel, you need to have the infrastructure. So some of the minuses that we have is that we don't have all of these fully in place. So we need to depend, especially the raw materials. So, but the basic infrastructure, the human capacity, we still need to do more to get to the level of the developed countries. Like I said, we do a lot of manufacturing of essential drugs, the over-the-counter drugs, and probably with time and with a lot of political goodwill, I think we should get there.
In case we are thinking of looking at, especially for the government and people, what other aspect can we look into to help in the aspect of drug production?
Research is very key because if you look at developed countries, they invest heavily on research, R&D, research and development. And this has really made life easy for the people in such countries. So if we invest heavily in research in our country, then it will go a long way to overcoming the barriers, the challenges of getting finished products and even getting new drugs, transforming the herbs that we have all around us into finished products. So research is the way to go.
Talking about herbs, there's a lot of controversy and debate when it comes to alternative medication. When we talk about native or herbal medication, so people feel no, you cannot use them. So people feel I've been using them for ages and then it's been working fine for me. I do not need modern medicine. Could there be a synergy or a convergence between alternative medicine and then modern medicine practice?
Oh yes, definitely. When we were studying pharmacy in pharmacy school, there is a particular course that we refer to as Babalawo, meaning the traditional doctor. Okay. You know, and what we do there is to study various types of herbs and their uses. And we also study the common names, the botanical names, to the extent that we become more or less traditional herbalists at that point in time. Meaning that herbs are very critical, you know, in the healthcare that we have right now. And the way to go is that herbs themselves, they are from natural products. They are natural sources, no doubt about that. But again, we must be careful. The fact that they are natural products and that they are from our vegetation does not mean that they're absolutely safe. So on one hand, herbs are very good for those that depend on herbs, but again, they have their challenges. When you talk about the dosing, that is a big problem when it comes to use of herbal medicines. Again, some of these herbs are contaminated with even orthodox medicines. Again, the storage of these herbs is another problem. Some of them are not properly stored. So the management of the herbs is very key to be able to, before you can say they are fit for consumption. And that is why many people end up having certain organ dysfunction because of the different problems posed by these herbs. But where you now put herbs in the proper perspective, you carry out research on these herbs, you formulate the herbs, you carry out what you call toxicity testing on these herbs, such that you are more or less doing a quality assurance on the herbs. Then you can transform them and package them into finished products that can be safe for human consumption. And when this is properly done, then there's a lot you can harness from the natural vegetation that we have.
So everything still boils down to research, because we need to conduct research on the herbal drugs to produce them into finished goods, into finished goods that is safe for human consumption. It's been a very interesting moment with Professor Oreagba in the studio, and he has been talking to us on drug production, especially when it comes to research and toxicology and how Nigeria can move forward in the aspect of drug production. We'll be going on a quick break now. Please join us when we are back.
Ever wondered the importance of local broadcast content to the much awaited digitalization? Ames Media Company Limited presents a webinar on digital switchover. The keynote address will be delivered by Professor Armstrong Idacheva, the Director General of National Broadcasting Commission. Other speakers are Mrs. Jibe Ologe, President of MQuan, who will speak on the importance of sourcing local broadcast content, the challenges in program production by Yinka Oduniyi, President ITBAN, media content distribution, the role of the broadcast stations by Mr. Ahmed Lawal, the Zonal Director of NTA Lagos Network Center. Mrs. Uche Nwoka, head of the SME Desk of Bank of Industry, will give tips on funding creative content. Economics of DSO will be presented by Emeka Osai, the MD of Golden Pyramid Production. The role of the advertising agency will be illustrated from the point of view of the prompt payment after broadcast, to be presented by Mrs. Bumi Makinde, Chief Operating Officer of Scout Media. Wow, Dr. Fadalakwa Lekan, the Register of Advertising Practitioner Council of Nigeria, will provide tips on regulations of commercial content. Russell Southwood of Balancing Act, United Kingdom, will share his thoughts on the state of African countries on digital switchover. The webinar will be moderated by Ajia Amina Mohammed of Ames Media Company Limited. It is a sure convergence of all the stakeholders in the broadcast industry. Date, Thursday 5th November 2020. Time, 10 a.m. to 12 noon via Zoom. Join the conversation to give the Nigerian broadcast content its pride of place. Content is truly king. Proudly supported by Neo Neurons.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the Magnate, and with me here in the studio is Professor Oreagba. Thank you for sitting with us, sir. So before we went on the break, we were talking about research in terms of when we talk about alternative medicine and modern medicine, how we can produce our own drugs in Nigeria, convert our herbs to consumable drugs that is fit for human consumption. What constitutes drug abuse? What exactly is drug abuse?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a very important topic, because currently we have a big problem, especially among our youths, when it comes to drug abuse, and it leads to what we call drug addiction. Now, it starts with dependence, curiosity. Youths want to try out new things, and then drugs are part of the new things that they want to try out. And when you start with a level of taking drugs, especially those substances of abuse, the first thing that happens is dependence. You are dependent on the drug. That means that if you don't take that drug, you are not okay, you're not satisfied. There's something missing. So you start to witness what we call withdrawal syndrome. Okay? So you need to take the drug continuously to feel good. And what makes you feel good? There are certain feel-good hormones that are produced when you take such drugs of dependence. Okay? Now, when that continues over time, then there's a level that becomes a sort of no going back. The patient now becomes addicted to the drug because he cannot do without taking that drug. So the process of continually taking that drug is what we call drug abuse. So that drug has been abused. It is similar but different from drug misuse. Okay? Drug misuse is using a particular drug for another condition, or for a condition that is not prescribed for you. You don't have that condition, but you are taking that drug for that condition. That is drug misuse. But drug abuse is when you persistently take a drug, despite even knowing the consequences. okay, of using it, but you cannot help yourself, then you're already abusing that drug. So persistent use of drug, despite knowledge of the consequences, which leads to addiction, okay? That is what we call drug abuse.
So drug abuse we have hard drugs and we have the normal drug. Does the use of hard drugs such as marijuana, is it the same thing as when I'm using something like paracetamol? Some people are used to using paracetamol like every day because maybe for painkillers. This brings me to the topic of even antibiotics, because people have been saying, I've been reading in a lot of research that antibiotics is not good for the body, and then doctors prescribe antibiotics, doctors prescribe painkillers. Does this also constitute drug abuse?
Good. Now, when you talk about antibiotics, when you don't use antibiotics the way you should use them, then that could lead to what we call resistance. So that is drug misuse, okay? Because antibiotics, normally you're supposed to use them for a period of 5 days, continuously. There are some you use twice daily for 5 days. There are some you use 4 times daily, that is every 6 hours for 5 days. Now, why are we insisting that antibiotics must be taken for a period of days? It's because they are destroying and eliminating organisms. And if these organisms are not properly eliminated and they're not properly removed from the system, they tend to multiply. And when they multiply, they could become resistant to the drug, in future. So if you take a drug, for example, some people will go to the pharmacy and request for 2 drugs, two capsules of antibiotic. Or, and of course, if they miss a pharmacist, the pharmacist will not dispense 2 capsules for him. Rather, he will sit him down and explain to him the dangers of using just 2 capsules of either ampiclox or tetracycline or the rest. Because the organisms can mutate and cause resistance. So, and the resistance itself is a big problem as we speak. Resistance can lead to therapeutic failure, meaning that when you are misusing drugs, that is not taking them the way you should take them, the antibiotics, then the time will come when you take the drug, there will be no effect.
Stop working.
It will stop working, and that can cause therapeutic failure, which can worsen the condition of that patient. So for us to prevent, the therapeutic failure and the incidence of drug resistance, we have to use drugs rationally. And when we use drugs rationally, then we are no longer misusing the drug. We are now using the drug, rationally.
Okay, talking about the right way, do you think health supplements are they effective enough to take care of us and cure people's illness?
Well, health supplements, as the name implies, they are meant to supplement the body system with vitamins, minerals, and also build up the immune system. So we cannot say that health supplements can cure. That is totally wrong. But rather, they can boost the immune system so that the body can fight against diseases, fight against illnesses, but on their own, they cannot cure. So what you tend to do is that health supplements assist the prescribed drugs so that the drugs, while they are functioning optimally, then the supplements are there to replace any lost minerals or vitamins and keep the person in a good immune level.
Okay. As a consultant of the NAFDAC, what's your take on the production of fake and expired drugs? Because I know during a period of time we are actively out campaigning against the production of fake drug and expired drug. Would you say Nigeria is developing in the aspect of fake drugs and expired drugs?
Well, first of all, the issue of fake drug is a global problem, okay, in Nigeria, Southeast Asia, as other developing countries. But in Nigeria, it's a big problem. At least 10 to 20% of the drugs that are circulating, globally are fake.
Wow.
Then coming to Nigeria, it goes even higher to about 30% or even more, depending on the location. Now, fake drugs, when you say fake drugs, basically you're talking about the content of that drug, that is the source, wrong source, or you are using a particular drug that is trying to mimic the effect of another drug, whereas that drug itself, that component is not active. So fake drugs can cause death, it can cause hospitalization, and it's a big problem as we speak. So what is the regulatory body doing? There's a lot of enlightenment, there's a lot of awareness creation, advocacy to reduce the incidence of fake drugs. And I'm sure, again, a lot of regulatory action, enforcement is going on. If you listen to the news, many a times the regulatory authority, NAFDAC, they get a consignment of drugs and burn them publicly, you know, to show that a lot of drugs are fake. So what we can do is to ensure that wherever we want to buy our drug or medicines, we patronize the pharmacists, the community pharmacy. And it's very, very straightforward. You will see the green sign, there's a signage for the community pharmacy. It's a green cross. So anywhere you find that green cross signage, you are sure that that pharmacy is owned by a pharmacist, and you'll be attended to by a pharmacist who is an expert on drugs, and the drugs that you are getting from that pharmacy will not be fake. So that is one way out of it. But of course, the problem is multifactorial, and we have to deal with it from different angles.
I think this is where the angle of the area of quality assurance comes in. So what's your impression on quality assurance on food and beverage in Nigeria?
Oh, well, a lot of activities are going on. I'm aware that the National Regulatory Authority, NAFDAC, they have a very strong and very dynamic quality assurance system. Then we also have the Standard Organization of Nigeria, that is SON, who also deal with standards, and they are also promoting quality assurance. Quality assurance is very key in production of medicines. You cannot produce medicines without ensuring good manufacturing practices, ensuring quality control, quality assurance. All of these are very, very important to ensure that the drug that is eventually produced, that goes out to the public, is safe and of the highest quality.
You produce over 70 journals when it comes to pharmacy and pharmacology. How has these journals, how have they contributed to pharmaceutical practice in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. Basically, my publications revolve around drug abuse, revolves around rational drug use, drug-drug interactions, and a host of subjects revolving on ensuring that drugs are used safely. The essence of all of this is to ensure that as much as possible, people or stakeholders do the right thing. There are guidelines for use of medicines, guidelines for use of medicines for the public, for the practitioners themselves. So sometimes we have to measure and find out how are the practitioners prescribing their drugs. Are they prescribing based on the guidelines? If not, what can we do as researchers to intervene and ensure that these guidelines are followed and ensure that prescribing is more rational? Again, how can we ensure that when people take medicines, there's minimal drug-drug interaction or minimal herbal drug interaction? So all of these are things that we carry out and publish. Again, talking about adverse drug reactions. A lot of times, patients come back to the hospital or to the pharmacy and report an adverse reaction, that they have taken a particular drug and they experience a rash or experience a headache. We need to find out what are the risk factors for the development of this adverse drug reaction. What is the trend? So all of this needs to be researched upon. And then when you now know the risk factors, you now know the trend, then you'll be able to put in place measures to reduce or minimize this risk. Okay, so these are some, and this requires a lot of research and a lot of advocacy to ensure, because when you publish papers, it shouldn't die there. It should actually be translated to the government to the stakeholders, to policymakers, and then they can then make use of the output of your research for the benefits of the people.
Thank you very much. So to finally wrap it up now, what advice would you give someone who is aspiring to go into your profession?
For you to be a pharmacist, you have to be very sound in science subjects, physics, chemistry, biology, and you need to get the very good grades when you do your ordinary level exams and probably your advanced level exams. Again, you need to have the flair for taste, good taste and good sense of smell, because these are things that you'll be needing when you are in the lab. You need to be alert, you need to be focused, and basically that's what it takes. And once you have the passion, okay, the zeal to want to learn, then you can become a pharmacist, you know. And again, another thing is that like for example, I always wanted to study pharmacy, okay? Right from time, that has been my passion. I always wanted to impact positively on people's health. But I wanted to do it in such a way that I'll be using the tools. And of course, drugs constitute a very important tool when you're talking about healthcare. So I will advise the young ones to have that passion to impact positively in their chosen career.
Thank you very much for obliging our course, sir. It has been a very interesting and educating moment with you, sir. We are very, very much grateful. Sadly, we are going to be wrapping up today's episode of The Magnate. We've learned quite a lot. In fact, I've learned a lot because I didn't know there's a difference between drug misuse and drug abuse. And then we've learned on drug production, what the government could do to help in drug production, what we could do, especially when it comes to alternative medicine, when it comes to supplements. Please remember to follow us on all our social media platforms at The Magnate TV on Instagram and Facebook. Till we meet next week, I am Ibrahim.